Now, this might be one of my most controversial views on the channel, and if I said this to people face to face, I'd definitely get a lot of hate for it, people getting angry at me, but I do not believe in depression, and let me tell you why. Before you get confused, by the way, and say, what do you mean I get sad all the time? Depression is real. Yes, obviously I believe in depression. It's literally a primary emotion. But the word depression that we speak of, in my opinion, I think it's made up as fuck, and we use it subconsciously to make ourselves feel better. Depression is you focusing on something negative for too long, and this always comes from the past, your past environment that you have been raised in. For example, if you have a bad family or you've been cheated on, this is you surrounded by unhealthy people in a sickly environment. If you have a kid and you're rich, you're a good parent, and you surround and raise your kid in a healthy environment, managing who they're like with, for example, their friends, girlfriends, even family, how can they get depressed later in life unless like a loved one passes away? Like, let's say if you're a good parent, if you pass away, obviously your kid is going to be really sad over that. And obviously it's completely normal to be sad, but the word depressed means that your whole focus is on that sadness, and that's not what we want. We should be raising our children to be independent for themselves, still like working and exercising to keep their brain healthy, and just for their career. I mean, they could be a millionaire, but if they go depressed, their whole business will collapse because of their mental state, which is why money, muscle, mindset, the triple M's mindset is so important. And if you have depression, then, well, you don't have much of a mindset, do you? Your life and healthy routine should not change at all, no matter how you're feeling, which is why I say depression is lack of focus, because when people are depressed, they only pay attention to the things they're sad about. They're not paying attention to the things that are really important. Like, I know people who have been depressed, and when they're depressed, they barely do shit. They're just like in a room all day, watching TV in their comfort zone, and that might feel good, but it's not good. No matter, like, comfort zones are like the worst thing. You always need to be putting yourself out there, getting yourself out of that comfort zone to avoid sadness. I'm not going to use the word depression in that sense. To avoid sadness. And people think, oh, well, you need to give him time to, get over his depression. And it's like, no, that's just going to make you worse. Like, okay, if you're depressed, how is sitting in a room all day under your covers, not doing shit, better than actually getting out, going on a walk, being active, working, exercising, working out? How is that better? I don't understand. Another thing that normal people in this generation, I just don't understand. This is why I'm just not normal. I'm just not normal at all. Also, one of the worst things is that because depression is such a popular word nowadays, anyone that gets sad just classifies themselves as depressed because they're not happy all the time. And it's a way of in a way it's a coping mechanism, because people, if you go up to an average group of people and say you're depressed, you're gonna get sympathy and almost praise for it. Praise, can you believe that? You're gonna get praised for being sad. Which I find crazy, and that will make these depressed people feel a little bit better, even though in 5 minutes they'll still feel like shit. I mean, why do you think I need to add a disclaimer at the start of this video saying this is a controversial opinion? Because if I don't say that, you'll have people saying, oh, I'm depressed, and depression is proven by doctors, and it's been studied for years, and it's like, depression is uncurable. Like, depression is not uncurable. Depression's not real anyways. But let's say depression is real. Depression is curable. How is depression not curable? The fact that you're depressed in the first place means that something bad has happened in your life, whether you know what it is or not. So if that bad thing never happened in your life, you wouldn't be depressed. Depression doesn't just come out of nowhere. Depression comes from somewhere, whether something yesterday made you depressed or 20 years ago made you depressed. It comes from somewhere. It can come 20 years later, or it can come a day later, like I just said. Depression comes from somewhere. So if depression comes from somewhere, then that means it is curable if you work on it and fix the problem why you're depressed. sit down for 10 minutes and just have a think. Why am I, if you don't know why you're depressed, have a sit down. Why am I depressed? Figure it out in your head and then try and fix it. Like racism and sexism, the only way we can end depression is if we just stop talking about it completely. It's that simple. Just shut your mouth and don't say you're depressed. Don't ever say the word depression. Don't even if you don't say I am depressed, even if you don't say that, just don't use the word depression in general. Treat it as a swear word because of how damaging it is to yourself and other people around you. Don't go to other people saying you're depressed because that's just going to bring that negativity on them. Never say you're depressed around around your children, because what does that do? Put them in a bad environment, like we've already talked about. And if you tell your children, oh, I'm depressed, or I was depressed, I used to be depressed back in the day because of this and that, your children will then be depressed and they'll be sad fucks like you. So just shut your mouth. Don't use the word depression. Your kids should barely even know what this... It would be amazing if your kids don't even know what depression means. Like if someone just goes mentions the word depression, it would be amazing if your kids just didn't even know what it means. That would be great. That would be better than them thinking depression is real and then using that to their advantage when they're actually sad. The only reason why your kids should know what the word depression means is because you're raising them in a good environment, educating them on why depression is a scam and it's not real. And that will make your kids never want to use the word depression and not feel this depression feeling that everyone else feels, apparently. Depression is like racism. If we stopped talking about racism, if we didn't say, oh, that's a black guy over there, that's a white guy over there, if we just said that's a guy over there, and we kept doing that for, it might take 20 years, it might take 200 years, but racism would end eventually. But because everyone in the world's not going to stop talking about like different races and different cultures, it's okay to talk about different cultures, but like different races, like clarifying people from their races, if that makes sense. Like if you see an Asian guy, you say, oh, there's an Asian guy, you know what I mean? Same with depression. If we stop talking about depression, everyone will almost forget that the word exists and replace the word depression with sadness, And like I said, obviously, I believe about sadness. So please, one bit of advice I would give to anyone that say they're depressed: just don't use the word depressed. Don't use the word depressed, and I promise you will get better. Right? I used to think I was depressed. I used to use the word depression a lot, and I still say the word depression a lot, which I really shouldn't. But it's just so like such a I've said the word so much in the past that the word is just still in my brain once in a while. So I still need to gain that mindset to just ban depression out of my vocabulary. But just don't say the word depression, and I promise you will feel so much better. I mean, I've said depression about 100 times in this video. I'm gonna fucking leave this video depressed after making it. I'm joking, but I've said this word so many times. Don't take after me. Don't say this word depression, please. Just you will not regret it. So to sum up this video, you can be sad, but you can't be depressed, because sadness is a primary emotion known about for millions of years, ever since humans started roaming the earth, while depression is just a trend that only came across as only being a thing for the last 100 years, if that, And obviously, I know sadness was dealt with in the wrong way. People not taking it seriously. People just saying, "Oh, grow some balls." Sadness isn't real. Just, obviously, sadness should have been dealt with more seriously. And because obviously, sadness is very, it can be quite bad in some cases if you let it get that bad, which people clarify as depression these days, but it's sadness. You're sad and you're letting your sadness just fucking control your mind, basically. But, the point is that in the olden days, sadness wasn't used as a flex like it is now. If you say in this day and age you're depressed, subconsciously, even if you're not trying to, subconsciously you are flexing. You are flexing to people that you are sad. You are flexing to people that, you should be, you should have sympathy. You should be given sympathy to, because you're sad, It's crazy. But anyways, gracias amigos. Thank you for watching. I don't speak Spanish, but thought I'd just change up the outro. Yeah. Alright, whatever. Peace, guys.